places that are hard to get to, do you want to talk about, I think it was the year before, when, before all the Russia stuff popped up.
Oh, Russia,
Do you
dude.
want to talk about how, because I think we filmed one of the events in Italy the year before with you, right?
It was the same year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming home, but I got to make a stop." Okay. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so there was there was a race in Russia, and I'd never been to Russia before, and
This is 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. Just so people know.
yeah, I think if my that's
Yeah, I think
that's-
It was 2022.
Yeah.
So there's this race in Russia, and it's in Moscow at a place called Patriot Park, which is a Russian military base. And they have this year-round track on it that the athletes rollerblade on in the summer, and then they ice cross in the winter. And it's huge. It's an awesome track. And so me and my buddy Jack Schramm were contemplating going to this race, and there was a lot of talk and stuff about a war breaking out and Russia invading Ukraine. It hadn't happened yet, and we actually talked to one of his buddies that he lived in Bali with, and he was like, man, they've been talking about invading Ukraine for 5 years. Like, they're not all this stuff. They're not going to do it. So last minute we go and we take our passports in, and we find out if we're even allowed to get it on this athlete visa. So we get approved the day before we're supposed to leave for Russia. So we're like, we got approved. We're doing it. We go to Russia. We get to Russia on a Wednesday night, and then start training on the track and everything. It's unreal. We're like, this was the best decision we've ever made. So glad we did it. All these other people that decided not to go were like, they're going to be, kicking themselves in the ass for this. And then Friday comes around, and we're doing time trials, and then we get the news that Russia invaded Ukraine and the war has officially started. So
and you get that news on a Russian military base.
we get it there in Russia, Patriot Park, and of course, get a lot of phone calls, texts, and DMs of like, because it's very known that we're in Russia. We're posting stuff like, hey, we're in Russia doing this race and everything. And of course, like my mom is like, you need to leave immediately. Right. And we're like, we're already here. DJ was like, you need to leave immediately. Yeah. But we decided that, we're flying out on Sunday. We're here already. We're going to do the race. What's the worst that could happen? A lot of bad things could happen, by the way.
Just war.
So yeah, it's just war. It's just war. And it's the most ridiculous thing too, because at the top of this track, it's very, very high up, built in scaffolding on a Russian military base. And we're looking out, and we hear like they're testing bombs. Like, we hear bombs going off. There's tanks. There's all kinds of military personnel.
What's the worst that could happen?
So
probably nothing.
So Jack and I, we decide to stay, and we do the race. It was unreal event. And there was a lot of stuff that went on during the race, people saying peace, not war. Like, there was a lot of political things that were done. I think Jack and I may have skated down the track with an American flag. I don't know, probably not the smartest thing whenever we're looking back, but it was.
This was after they invaded.
Yeah.
This was
on
this was
a
after.
Russian military base.
We had the support of the Russian riders, though. They weren't for the war. They're not for the war. So it was a unifying thing.
So again, what's the worst that could happen?
So then
they said I could do it.
Yeah. So we race on Saturday. The race finishes up. We go out and we party with the Russian athletes. The bars never close there. It's 5 a.m. We're doing shots that are on fire. I remember this one Russian orders all these shots, and they light them on fire. And I'm sure you guys have done shots that you light on fire here in the States. And what do? You blow the flame out, and then you drink the shot, right? So they're, this Russian, take this shot. So I grab the shot and I blow the flame, and he goes, no. Drink fire. And I was like, I'm not going to drink the fire. Like, that's dumb. And he goes, pussy. And he grabs it on fire, literally flame, and just opens his mouth and swallows it. And I was like, Russians are just built different. I was like, so we hang out, we party. Our flight's at 8 a.m. And also to backtrack a little bit, the flight situation was an absolute nightmare because if you guys remember, all American companies like pulled everything out of Russia as soon as they invaded. They're like, we're not doing business with Russia.
It was like 2 days later, right? Like,
Yes.
so it was like they invaded, and you're like, no, I'm good. I'm good on this Russian base. I'm gonna be fine. I'll just get on next flight home. And then you're out doing shots, and that's like if I remember the timeline right, you're doing shots, and they're basically that's when like the embargoes start happening, and we start canceling all the flights.
Yeah. It's done. But can we back up for a second? You thought it was okay to go there, skate down an ice-crossed track with an American flag as the war has begun, but it's not okay to drink a shot that's on fire.
Yeah.
Calculated risk, DJ. Calculated risks.
He's bad at math, but he's calculated risk. Not well, but it's calculated.
But so our flights get canceled.
Yeah.
And I find out about it, and we're trying to figure it out. My parents helped out a lot, and they like found us a flight. We had to go like, I think to Dubai or to
UAE or something.
Yeah, somewhere wild. And then we had to get a connecting flight to like Amsterdam, and then flew to New York, and then I got a flight. And so it was this whole rigmarole of like getting flights to get the hell out of there.
Because they basically canceled, from what I remember, flights to all like Western friendly countries, minus like places Russia had alliances to, whereas like UAE, China,
basically
that type of stuff. Yeah.
NATO was canceled.
Yes, and any North American owned airlines
gone,
and which we were booked. I think we were booked on Delta. I can't remember which one it was. So all of those gone. So it was a mad scramble to find it. We found a flight, get to the airport. My buddy Jack, he's a smart one. He's sober. He doesn't drink alcohol, and so he drives us to the airport. I'm hammered, and there's literally he took a video of me. We had to wait so long when we returned the rental car that I passed out on top of my ice cross bag in a parking garage outside of the car. And he took a picture, and he's like sent it to my dad, and he was like, "Your son's really worried about the situations that's going on over here." So just to top this all off, we get into the airport, and everywhere we traveled during that year, this is only a year and a half or so, or 2 years, can't exactly remember the timeline, after COVID. So you still had to fly with all of the proof of vaccination and your test and everything. This was all still going on. So we get there, and we're standing in line at the airport, and Jack
the Russian airport,
and Jack pulls out his paperwork, and I was like, oh shit! Like I totally forgot that we had to do that to get on the flight. We had to have showing that you got the COVID test and that you're negative. And so I was like, I had been forging these documents the entire trip. I travel all around Europe. I had a fake, I never got vaccinated, so I had a fake vaccination card that I was using. And don't cancel me. I had a fake vaccination card, and I would just forge the negative thing and change it to my name based on other people that had it. So I'm doing this the entire time. And
calculated risks.
Yeah.
Calculated.
So we're in line at the airport in Russia. War's going on. I forget about this. I take a picture. Jack has a piece of paper that had been folded up, right? And he had COVID, a month or so before this season started. And back then, that was something that you could say like, oh, I had COVID, so the doctor shows that I had COVID. Now I have the antibodies, blah, blah, blah. So he had this document. So I took a picture of this document on like my Instagram story, and then I edited the information to change it to my name. And then that's what I saved it. And then that's what I showed them. But it is a folded piece of paper, and the editing stuff on Instagram is good, but it's not that good to match the colors.
It's in like the Comic Sans font.
Yes. So I show it to them, and they're looking at it. They actually like, they call up and Jack at this point is like, I'm going away from you. He's like, I am going to another line. He's like, you're getting stuck here, and I'm leaving. Every
man for himself.
And so they start calling all these people over, and at this point, I was like, oh, this isn't looking good for me. This is I may have fucked up. I was starting to like rationalize all the bad decisions that I had made. And I was like, you need to stop rationalizing these things because you fucked up. So they call these people over. They're looking at these documents. They're talking to each other in Russian. Then one guy comes and says, you need to step to the side of the line. And we're taking, they took my, my card, not the picture that I forged, but my fake vaccination card. And they took it and they're like, hey, we have to go and run this in the back. And I was like, hey, like, I'm not comfortable with you taking that. And I kind of started to make a scene and they was like, we're taking it. And I was like, you can take it. Go ahead. so they take it, they come back. Somehow they are like, you're fine. You're good to go through. And we get through and we get on our flight and we fly back to America and everything was good, just like I knew it would be. So everyone was freaking out.
Everything always works out.
Everything always
somehow the COVID forgery is the least sketchy part of that entire story.
It really is.
It's like
it really is.
They're like, please get out of here before something bad happens.
You want to hear the craziest thing though? Like everyone talks about like when we were in Russia and how, you know, they were worried for our safety and all this stuff. The number one thing that I thought was going to happen, that I was worried for actually like my well-being, I thought, and this is a no shit thought, I thought that the US government was going to find out that 2 American athletes had access to a Russian military base and they were going to put a hood over our heads, kidnap us, and then tell us like we have to wear wires and cameras and go and find out evidence because we have access. Like you literally come up and we have access to a military base that no one else has access to. And that was my biggest concern. I was like, the CIA, the US government is going to find out about us and they're going to use us.
Some CIA Russian military
to get information.
And that's totally not happening.
That's my biggest. Yeah, the tell-all book comes out in 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what did the U.S. say when you came back? Because they always ask whenever you come back, you're like, hey, what countries you visited?
Yeah.
Where were you? Why were you maybe in Russia on a military base?
I mean, we just told them we were there for. They did ask, and it was the entire. I mean, during COVID and everything too. That like they just question you and question you and question you. But with that one in particular, when they found out we were in Russia, it was a longer interview than normal, and we were literally just like, we were racing. We're athletes.
Yeah.
We went over there before the war started. We didn't know anything about it, and then it just so happened to pop off. You know, right whenever we were over there.
Here we have proof.
I think that's a technical term for war starting.
Yeah.
Popping off.
Popping off. Yeah.
We have proof. Here's a picture of us skating down a track with an American flag.
Yeah.
We were full American over there.
Yeah, I'm supporting the greatest country in the world. So, yeah, looking back, maybe not the best decision, but I mean, I would have done the same thing, having known, you know, everything that went on. I still would have gone. That's kind of how. I mean, that's hence the name of the film, Life on the Edge. I mean, that's kind of how I live my life. It's how DJ lives his life, it's how Jack lives his life. I think you do the same thing. I mean, you have a brand, Impossible. You live the impossible. You do the impossible. You encourage people to do the impossible. Some would say, hey, maybe not the best idea. We say, we're going to go for it. So
fuck it.
If you
that's right.
If you would have gotten kidnapped, then we would only have to capture like 2 more. Like what's the guy's name? He's like the Merchant of Death.
The Merchant of Death.
And we'd have to get 2 more of those guys to exchange for
I
you and Jack.
I don't think the U.S. government would have traded anything for Jack and I.
No,
I don't think we were.
Is Jack American?
He's American. He's dual citizenship.
Okay.
He's Canadian American, but yeah.
So we could go like halvesies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, Canada and U.S. kind of go together to get him back. He probably would have made it back. I don't think that I would have. But
what do you think? What do you think the going rate for one Brittan is? I don't know.
The Merchant of Death. I mean, that's
pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Cool name.
Okay, I will say this. I guess that was Brittany Griner.
Yeah.
So is she WNBA or college basketball?
WNBA.
So a WNBA athlete got the Merchant of Death. So I feel like I would get something pretty high.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what they got,
that's
for her,
the standard.
Do you guys have nicknames in the sport?
I mean, everyone calls me Mullet Mike.
But that's like a character you do, right?
Yeah.
But do people have like different? Because we could like elevate your status by just coming up with like death on blades. I don't know.
Yeah.